What's going on, everybody? So it's been 2 weeks since I did the turbo, the 20G turbo, and the group end transmission mount install. Did get the tune finalized in time before I was required to do that update. I haven't even done the update yet, or don't plan on doing anything else with it until there's a better workaround solution. But real quick, my thoughts on the 20G and where I ended up. So basically, I anticipated that I would run out of injector before I ran out of wastegate on the turbo, and it was actually not the case. I did run out of wastegate and still was only at like 81% injector duty cycle. So hindsight being 2020, I could have gone with a bigger turbo, but that being said, there really wasn't a turbo in the price range I needed to be in stock. So the more important thing was getting a turbo in the car so I could tune it before the deadline, which I did do. So I'll get to the numbers and show you some virtual vinyl stuff to compare to the stock turbo here shortly. But my thoughts overall, didn't really give up much at all in terms of spool. Down low, it's pretty much feels the same as the stock turbo. However, what I really wanted and what I needed, or what it did, was made it pull all the way to redline much harder, and it didn't feel like it was dying off like the stock turbo, which pretty much everyone would agree with that. And with the stock turbo, I'll show, and I really only was shifting it 6,500 or so, and I could shift, pull it to 7,100 now because it pulls, it's pretty much a flat number all the way to redline. So all in all, it definitely was worth it. I kind of wish I would have gone bigger with the turbo, but at the same time, I did what I could with what I had. So I was a little shocked that injectors had so much left in them. I thought that I was going to run out sooner, and I kind of thought the turbo would go a little higher, but overall, I mean, I'm really only talking about 20-30 horsepower that I'm short on what I thought I was going to get to. But in all honesty, driving it as a daily driver, it's fine. It's plenty for being a daily driver, and honestly, 9 times out of 10 I wouldn't even notice that 20 or 30 horsepower. So all in all, I'm very happy with it. The group end transmission mount, that in and of itself is just what the doctor ordered. Before, especially if it was flat foot shifting, it did feel like you were moving the entire transmission when you got it in gear. And sometimes you get the third gear lockouts because under torque and the movement of the engine and the transmission, you miss the gate on the 2-3 shift. Not at all anymore. It's way more solid feeling, to the fact that I don't know that I will ever get around to putting that torque solution joint in. I don't think it's necessary now. It did drastically reduce the false knock I was getting on like hard launches and hard shifts. Still a little bit there, but I do still have to do the engine mounts. So all in all, it was well worth it. I enjoy the car all over again. So as a daily driver, and I still have flex fuel. So, which it's not a big deal. I've had many cars in the past where you don't have the capability of it, like that Lightning. It's not on flex E85 yet, but when it is, we'll have to tune, switch tunes back and forth. The Cobra, same thing. It's on E85 only, but if I needed to go on 93, I'd have to put a new tune in it. So, all in all, I do enjoy that because this is my daily driver. I ended up with, I've got multiple tunes on there. I did go ahead and do a tune to where if I do the IY or hybrid MAF kit, not for speed density, but to have the mount the intake sensor in the top mount intercooler for better, more realistic readings, I could do that. I do, because I do have tunes calibrated for that on both 93 flex fuel and 91 flex fuel. But anyway, that's enough talking. I'm gonna cut right here, and I'll be back with the virtual dyno plots to compare it, just show you where I ended up and how it compared to the stock turbo. Okay, so I'm in here in the back cave. So what I'm going to show you first is the stock. So as you can see, this is not the highest I've ever made with the stock turbo. I think I actually got up to like 360 wheel horsepower and like 420 something foot-pounds of torque. But this was just happened to be one of them that was looked like a fairly clean run. As you can see, it made 352 and 410, and you notice how it starts to decline pretty good there at the end. And as you can see, I've only ran it to 6,500 RPM because that's about where I was shifting with the stock turbo. Now we'll go to sport mode, and what I ended up with. And as you can see, I have it softer coming in on the low end, but that's by design. And even in sport mode, I'm at 391 wheel horsepower and 397. So I didn't really, even between sport sharp on the stock turbo and sport, I'm only losing about 15, maybe 20 foot-pounds of torque and some low down, torque. But even on sport, I'm picking up, 40 wheel horsepower, and as you can see, it runs higher in the RPM. So even just the sport mode, you can see how it just pulls and pulls. It's going to pull much harder. Now, granted, this is not like a lot of horsepower, but for a daily driver, you can feel that difference when you do get on it, for sure. Now, I'll bring in one of my higher resulted maps in Sport Sharp. I actually had several that were in the 410, 415 wheel horsepower range with 420. This is at 426 foot-pounds of torque. I had some that were in the 430 range, but this was a fairly cleaner run, so I just grabbed this one. As you can see, the torque is almost identical up to 4,000 from the stock turbo, even though it's not making as much boost down low right off the bat. It still hits 20 psi, about 3,800 RPM, but it continues to climb, and even though it's not making the same boost, it's making the same amount of torque. But it does continue to carry it out and go up higher and carry it much further. As you can see, even with this one, if I scroll over to red line from the stock turbo, I was at 338 horsepower versus 391 at 6,500. So, talking 50 something, 53 foot-pounds of torque at 6,500, but it's a 387 at 7,000 ish. So the fact that it's, the difference, while it may only be 51 peak, but it's, you can see it's just a huge increase up here. As far as a daily driver is concerned, it just gives you a whole lot. Didn't mean to do that. Whole lot more to play with. It doesn't feel like it's running out of steam like the stock turbo. So anyway, as far as I'm concerned, it was a success. And, you know, would I have rather had something like a Dominator 1.5 or that Grimspeed ball bearing turbo? Sure. But none of those were in stock or in my price range for that matter. So with what I got, I'm happy. It's plenty for a daily driver, in my opinion, especially being all-wheel drive. You know, having that, it can be fun, rain or shine. So I think it's a good decision. I don't know. Let me know what y'all think. Anyway, until next time, I'll be back.